I was mind blown yesterday when I realized that I have created my dream life in just 3 months. It's currently the beginning of April 2025, meaning that from the beginning of the year, when I was just getting out of a relationship, after months of us trying to see if we should stay together or go our separate ways, I was in my old apartment. I did not know where I wanted to live, where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do moving forward with my life. But in that moment, started to dream about what I wanted for my life in 2025 and onward. I created a dream list, a plan. And yesterday, as I was on a walk on my way to have dinner with one of my new girlfriends, who I developed through my podcast, I realized how every single thing that I had dreamt of that I wanted to make happen is happening in my life. That doesn't mean I live the perfect life, doesn't mean that I don't go through hardships and challenges, but it does mean that there is power to, regardless of whether you've hit rock bottom and you need to find a way out and figure out what new thing you want for your life, or you're just at a stage of wanting something different, something new. What I am about to share with you in this podcast episode is just here to remind you once again that you can create your future. And I'm going to first share with you these different things that I have gotten to manifest and create in my life within these first just 3 months of this year, and then give you a step-by-step process as to how you can do the same. And it's simple. It's actually pretty damn easy if applied, if consistently taking the little action that are crucial for us to manifest the things that we want in our life. As I mentioned, in the beginning of 2025, January 1st, I had just gotten back from Denmark from being on vacation there with my family. I had decided with my previous partner that we were going to separate our ways after many months of figuring out what was best for us moving forward. So we finally came to this conclusion, and I got back to the US in my North Hollywood apartment, which I had lived in for 3 years. And I knew that I did not want to stay there. It was not an environment that I wanted to come back to. So firstly, I started dreaming about what is it that I want for this next chapter of my life. And I was playing around with different ideas. Did I want to continue traveling around, living my life as a digital nomad as I had the previous year? Did I want to move to a different state, country? Where did I want to be? And the thing that came to me was Santa Monica, Venice Beach, California. It just, when I was walking and opening my mind up to what possibilities, where I could go, I started getting these images of me roller skating by the beach. I've always used roller skating as a form of transportation in Denmark, and I have enjoyed it and loved it so much. And on top of that, I have visited Gold's Gym in Venice a couple of times prior, and I just felt called to have that be my new gym. I felt that there potentially could be a community for me there, people who I could connect with who were like-minded. And oh man, was I right, because when I came back from Denmark, I started apartment hunting. And the thing about LA is that apartments are so freaking expensive. And I had been paying a certain amount of dollars per month for my old apartment. I'll just share it. $3,000 every month for my 2-bedroom apartment that I was living in North Hollywood. Beautiful apartment, newly renovated. And what that allowed me to do was have my bedroom and then have my office, which I also used as a little corner podcast studio, big living room, kitchen, etc. And I really wanted to find a place that was new, that was renovated. I did not want to move into something that was not something that I could film in the same way that I could in my old place. As you guys know, I create videos for a living, and filming in a bright space with, like a nice kitchen, it just makes a difference for the videos. And I really wanted a 2-bedroom apartment because I wanted to create my dream studio apartment, because a goal that I set for myself in the beginning of the year was to take my podcast to the next level. And I really wanted to create a studio because I wanted to start having more people come on as podcast guests. I wanted to learn from these incredible individuals who I've looked up to for a while or maybe potentially just met, but I just wanted to connect with people after many, many, many years of doing this social media thing myself. Like I've just, worked for myself, spent so many hours with myself, and I really was craving community and craving connection. And I know that podcasting was something I loved, enjoyed extremely well. And I knew that it could also be a beautiful way for me to create new like-minded friendships and connections. So I wanted to have a home studio. And as I got back, I think it was the day after I had landed, I went to check out apartments. And what I very quickly realized was that if I wanted an apartment that was as, let's call it luxurious as my previous apartment, with 2 bedrooms, so that I could have this podcast studio together with a bedroom and together with filming in the kitchen and the living room, it would be at least 1.5 times the price. So maybe 4,500 in this new location that I wanted to live in. And I was like, oh no, because it just didn't make sense for me to pay that much for rent. I already thought that my previous rent was crazy expensive. And I went out and looked at so many apartments, and the ones that I looked at the price range that I could afford, they were just not it. Older, not a lot of bright light, which light is just so important for the videos I create. And obviously it just feels good to live in a place where there's bright light. And I really wanted to live in this area because of the community aspect, because of Gold's Gym. So I was just devastated and didn't know what to do. But as we know, when we want something, we don't give up. We just keep looking. And I kept on looking, feeling very let down, but also trusting that everything always works out for me. Everything always works out in the highest good for me. And I believe that with that mindset, good things do always come to me. I always find a solution, regardless of how much it feels like it's not happening and it's not possible. I choose to believe that. And so I kept looking. And one day I go to look at this one apartment, which I loved, but it was still over my price range. And I really loved the apartment, and I actually thought, okay, you know what? If I get it to the price that it's listed at, I almost just want to say yes. But my dad says to me, Pernilla, why don't you just say that you'll take it if they'll allow you to move in for a certain price? He told me a price that's just a little bit more than I used to pay. I was like, Dad, you can't do that with rent. Like, it doesn't work like that. And then I thought about it for 24 hours and I decided, you know what? I'm just going to give it a try. And so I sent them that message and they got back to me pretty quick. And well, they agreed for me to move in. And today I'm living in this, oh my gosh, I could not be happier with the apartment that I get to live in. And I got it cheaper than it originally was listed at. And it's by the beach. It's close to Gold's Gym where I can rollerblade to. And on top of that, every day when I go to this gym, my vision was that I would meet new people every day at this gym. And I have met so many people, and I've started developing actual friendships from going to this gym. I'll give you another little story that I've touched on previously, but there's this influencer called Emily. She's actually coming on the podcast in a couple of days, and we just got back from a trip. And how that trip manifested was that I had just moved in here to my new apartment. This happened on February 1st. After a while, I'd met new people at the gym every day, but I was one night praying for deeper connections, like for me to meet people that I could really dive deep with, not just, hey, how are you doing? That's great too. But I wanted some depth and connection. And the next day I look over and I see Emily, and Emily is someone who I used to follow 6 years ago in the beginning of my fitness journey. She was one of the first people I ever followed. And I was like, wow, that's so cool. And I went over to her and said hi, and we'd followed each other on Instagram for a long time. And so we started talking, and I could just immediately feel like, oh my God, her energy is incredible. So that was awesome. We decided hey, let's connect. Let's go grab coffee. But a couple of days earlier than that, I had started thinking of a new vision board, because as I moved in to my new place, I was like, okay, this also screams for a new vision board. And I started looking at photos, and this vision of a first class seat comes up. And the reason for that is I had recently listened to a podcast episode where this woman started sharing that she had always just flown economy on these business trips, but one day she just decided that from now on, I'm just going to ask for a first class seat whenever I go on these business trips. And I was like, that would be so cool. As someone who's traveled oh my goodness, at least a flight a month for, I feel like, her whole life. I have always just flown economy, but I was like, I'm going to put a first class business class seat on my vision board because I would love to be the type of person that just flies business class on my business trips. And a couple of days after meeting Emily and us deciding to, get together, hang out, I get a voice note from her saying that, by the way, this is something that I'm sharing in my next YouTube video, but you get a little teaser here. I get a voice note from Emily asking me if I would be wanting to join her for a trip to Florida on a self-defense course. And she's saying that her intention with the trip is to connect, for us to get to know one another and learn some incredible self-defense tools and tactics and tricks. And I just felt this instant yes, that this was something that I wanted to do. And what I didn't know at the time was that these beautiful people at WAFT who invited us had gotten us business class seats. So all of that to say, and bringing back to manifestation, which is all part of the steps that I'm going to give you later, I asked for connection. And it wasn't just Emily that I met that day. I met a couple of other people following that I also have been hanging out with after the fact because I asked for it. I let it go, and then it came to me. But secondly, I decided that I wanted to start flying business class, put it on my vision board, and that came to me as well. But now going back to yesterday, which is what I started off this podcast episode sharing, was that I realized something massive. Yesterday, I realized all of these things with the apartment, my new community, the gym. I've really built a new social life here. It's still developing, so it's not perfect. But also, I've really started growing my podcast. And one of the goals that I really wanted this year was to grow my podcast and get incredible guests on there, and sometimes even like bigger guests that weren't just friends, but actually people who I look up to, who I've learned from. And I'd started reaching out to a couple of people. And on top of that, I also wanted to continue to really make a massive impact inside of my community, really help these people who join, give them the exact tools that they need to grow, to shift from a place of feeling stuck to creating this dream life that they actually want to create. And so going back to yesterday, as I was walking to this dinner with this new girlfriend of mine, or actually we've known each other for a little while now, but I realized, wow, today is Sunday. It's the beginning of April, meaning that 3 months have passed. I started off my morning doing some beautiful creative work, creating videos, which is something I love and I always want to continue doing. I then went on a coaching call for 2.5 hours with my community. And on that call, so many of these beautiful individuals shared how my challenge has transformed so many areas of their life, which to me is one of the most fulfilling things to hear, is when this program that I've created, this community that we have created, that we are all a part of, and these tools and this coaching that I provide helps them live in more alignment with what it is that they deep down want and grow into the individuals that they have been dreaming about becoming. That is the most fulfilling words I can hear. So I'd had this coaching call with them. I then leave my home to go to the gym, which again was a dream for me, to move to this area in California, to go to Gold's Gym, have an incredible workout. Like, I worked my butt off yesterday and my ass is feeling it today. And while I was at the gym, my editor messages me that, hey, just so you know, the podcast episode that you recorded with Anthony Trucks, which is today as I'm recording this, it's Monday. It just went live today, which Anthony Trucks is one of the people who I had watched on stage. He'd impacted me. And so he was one of the people who I thought, ooh, that would be a cool person to interview. And for me, he's like on a next level, in the terms of his career, what he has accomplished in life. And I've also reached out to a lot of other individuals like that who I either have interviewed or am going to be interviewing on the show, who have said yes, which is just wild to me, because at the beginning of the year, as I decided that I wanted to grow this podcast episode, I was thinking about all these big names. And obviously I did not know at the time that any of them would say yes to being interviewed on the show. So as I was at the gym having my dream workout, I get this text, hey, can you listen through this episode? And I listened through it, and oh my gosh, so much awesome things were shared in that episode. And at the time, I didn't realize that that was a dream I'd had, to interview people like him on my Challenge Your Norm podcast. So that massive for me because it was a goal. It was a dream that also had come true. Actually, this was before, I think it was after my coaching call, I received a message from Britt Manuela, who is someone who I previously have interviewed on my Challenge Your Norm podcast. She was in LA and asked me, hey, do you want to go out to dinner? And one of the things that I had also dreamt of was connecting with like-minded individuals, get them on my podcast, and those who really I click with, develop friendships. And so I got back home from the gym, got ready, and then I decided to walk to wherever we were eating because it was in Santa Monica and it was a 25-minute walk. And, a walk is always great for us to allow our mind to wander. And that is when I realized, wow, looking back at my entire Sunday today, this is what I 3 months ago had no clue that I could create, but the things I was dreaming of was what I was living. I don't believe it's magic. I believe it's alignment. And it is because I did this step-by-step process that I want to share with you now, because we're all capable of creating the things in our life that we deep down want. But it's just a matter of showing up consistently towards making it happen in terms of aligning our frequency and doing these little daily habits that help us step into this future version of ourselves. So here is my 5-step manifestation process that if you have something you're dreaming about, or you want to get clear on what it is that you actually want for these future next 3 months of your life, 9 months of your life, year of your life. I'm saying 9 months because there's 9 months left of 2025, and it may be fun to set some goals and make it happen. Step 1 is obvious, and you've heard me talk about it a million times, and it is get clear on what you want. You need massive clarity on what you want. You can't just say, I want to get in better shape. No, you say, I want to have, let's say, 20% body fat and increase my strength to be able to lift 2 plates of squats for 12 reps. I want to lose 1 inch of my waist. Like whatever it is, what is it that you want? Now, this was a fitness goal because that's something we all can relate to. But for me, it wasn't, I want a new life. It was, I want to live by the beach. I want to find my dream apartment, which is, I described it in details, all the things that I was wanting in my dream apartment. I described that I wanted to grow my podcast to this extent. I wanted to reach out and have incredible guests on my show who inspire me, who I can learn from, who I can connect with and become friends with. I want to go to Gold's Gym, and I want to every single day meet new people and create this new community. So everything that you want, get clear on it in as much details as possible. And that leads us to the second step, because the second thing that is kind of combined with the first thing is writing it down. And I mean, I would write it down every day. I would write down every single day what it is that you want and by what date do you want it. That doesn't mean you're necessarily going to hit it at that date. I've had many goals that have been so extreme that it did not happen, or potentially some of them have still not happened on that date. But I believe that when we aim high, we're still going to land somewhere a little bit higher than we would if we didn't allow ourselves to seek big things at all, because we're going to work towards it, which we're going to get to. But write it down daily. And then something I also did was I visualized it. I visualized to this day, every single day. Right now, I'm visualizing something even bigger than what I live now. And it makes me feel so freaking good. I have so many meditations inside of my community, but there's also a lot of like visualization meditations, future you meditations, but you can also find a lot of meditation visualizations online or on different apps. So writing it down daily, visualizing it, even if it's just 10 seconds of connecting with your breath and just stepping in to seeing and feeling yourself living that life now. Like, how does that feel? And to me, what that my future feels like is peace. Oh, this is something I forgot to share earlier. When I would step into my future, I would see and feel and experience myself at so much peace. However, I have been living, I can feel that now, I can see that now, in such a state of stress, not in a bad way. I've just been so excited about all the things I've been creating in my life that I've just always been like, go, 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 go. And sometimes at certain stages, given myself a hard time if I didn't continuously go, 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 where one of the things that I wanted to manifest in this new life was feeling at peace. And I have never felt as much in peace as these past couple of months. And if I have caught myself stressing, which I believe I've shared on a previous podcast episode, like I caught myself stressing at the gym and I became aware of it, that's always step number one, become aware of our patterns. I became aware of, I'm stressing about all these things that I have to do. I became aware of it. When I became aware of it, I could ask myself, what would my future self do at this moment? She would breathe and let it go and step back into peace, because no difference is made whether I choose to enjoy this workout session or I choose to stress my way through it. So continuously stepping into this state of peace, and oh my gosh, it feels so good. It feels so good. But first I had to become aware that the stress was something I wanted to let go of. And the incredible thing is, I've never felt this much at peace. Right now, I'm actually having a pretty, I'm not crazy busy. I have seasons the week before this week was crazy busy. So, it goes up and down. But just generally, the fact that I felt this much peace and continuously made as much progress and growth as I've done through this state of peace also just shows that good emotions lead to good results. I've still been taking action, but it's felt like I've been in flow rather than in some sort of resistance, fighting against something, which is something I used to do a lot. So even though I've felt like I've done less because I've been at so much peace, I actually have gotten as much done. It's the same as on my shoot days now. Like I would used to stress through my shoot days. Let's say I had to shoot 10 reels in one day, or a YouTube video and something for a brand partnership that I was working with. I would stress through it, where now I just take my time and enjoy it and almost whistle my way through it. And I get all of it done. Maybe sometimes it takes 30 minutes more than it would have if I'd stressed through it, but I would much rather enjoy my time getting to live this dream life that I've built. Like I used to dream about creating content for a living, impacting people for a living. Like, how lucky am I? So I would much rather enjoy it and potentially be a little slower and get a little bit less done, but have it be in flow and feel good. But I don't actually even think I get less done. Like I think I actually potentially have even gotten more done through this mindset. But I went on a tangent there because we were talking about writing it down daily, visualizing it, and the last little thing that I wanted to add. The most important thing about step 2 is writing it down daily. The little extra add-on sprinkle on top could be visualizing it or stepping into these future emotions that you will feel when you have achieved this thing. The third little, let's say, icing on the visualization is going to be the icing on the cake. And the asking, which is the third little thing, is going to be the sprinkle on top, which is what I did when I decided to ask for deeper connections. When I decided hey, universe, thank you for everything that you're giving me in my life right now. I'm seeking and craving deeper relationships. Would you be willing to help me manifest this? So potentially you're a prayer already. And maybe you just want to give it a shot and ask for what you want, because you may just receive it. It's really wild. A couple of things that in the past many years that I've experienced asking for something and then releasing it, which we're going to get to, and then it coming to me. But step number 3 when it comes to manifesting is taking aligned action every day as I've been working towards these goals. And obviously I didn't grow my career and the fact that I can afford this apartment and all the things that I get to do. I didn't manifest that in 3 months, but the growth that has happened in these 3 months is massive. But the journey of getting to here, obviously it's every 3 months making new changes, new progress, including new manifestations into your life. So in these past 3 months, I've continuously taken action. I continuously looked for apartments. I continuously pushed myself to get out of my way, to open myself up at the gym. I'm an introvert. So I usually am not the most open person to come talk to, even though people would probably think I was, because I'm always very smiley. When I work out, I'm a little bit in my zone. So I had to open my energy up and sometimes speak to people because I had on my little habit tracker to connect with someone new every single day. I've had to get outside of my way to be social in different ways, which is also not natural for me. I love being by myself. I'm an introvert, like I mentioned. And when it came to my podcast growth and interviewing new people and having them come to my home, that was outside of my comfort zone, writing to people who potentially didn't know me or who I felt who am I to even ask these people to come on my show? I'm a nobody. the little stories we tell ourselves. So I've had to continuously take action. And same with this is just a little side thing, but my Instagram has grown maybe 100,000 followers in the last 3 months. And that's also come from me continuously getting creative with what content I can make through studying what is working, what resonates with people, filming stuff. Some things that I film doesn't work out in the way I wanted to, reshooting, editing it in a way where I think it's going to be relatable. Some things work, some things don't. And then I take the things that work and I duplicate it and I try again and again and again, and continuously learning and putting so much effort into growth. And the other thing that I also forget, oh my gosh, I forgot so many things. The other thing that I also wanted to do in these first 3 months of the year was to find a way to once again open up my YouTube channel. I took a pause from creating YouTube videos for a while, but do it in a way that felt good, because my YouTube channel had become this thing that just felt like a burden and something really, really hard for me. And I wanted to get to a place where it would feel easy again. And that's something that I've been able to do. And only through communicating with my team member, who is just incredible, working with me on all these projects that I'm doing, and diving deep into figuring out how can we do this in a way where it feels good, where it's relatable for the audience. And yes, it may not be the most viral YouTube videos, but it's going to feel good creating it, and it will hopefully impact some of the people who do watch the videos. So that was something I also wanted to do, and that also required action. And the other thing is also, I, at one point within these 3 months, decided that I wanted to write a book, and the idea just came to me, and it was just so clear that this was something I needed to do. And that felt so overwhelming, so scary, because I am not someone who has ever been good at writing. I did not get good grades in school when it came to writing. And, those limiting thoughts of, who am I to think that I can even do this? And then becoming aware of that, once again, only when we're aware of it can we choose to shift it. Becoming aware of those limiting beliefs and feeling this calling that there is something here. I don't know what it could lead to, just starting on this journey of writing a book, but I'm just going to try. And so I, little bit at a time, am starting to write more and more on this book. It's nowhere near finished, but I'm doing it, and I'm feeling more confident and more proud, and little by little can actually see this quick idea that I got come to life through just sometimes spending 5 minutes in a day just writing a couple of sentences that can be used inside of this book. So take aligned action. And sometimes when you write down all the things that you want, it can feel overwhelming. So what I would do if I were you is have the big, bold vision, right? The big goal that you want, and then create milestones. Ask yourself, okay, what does that look like? Like, go from this big vision and then create milestones. Maybe that looks like breaking it down first into months. Like, what are the different goals that you need to hit every single month? And then breaking it down into a weekly plan. It could be like getting a domain name if you want to start a side business, writing the text on the front page. Then it's getting a checkout page. Then it's actually creating the product. And what does that require? And then write down what needs to be done every single week, what needs to be done as a daily ritual, what needs to be done on a monthly basis, and just like breaking it down. Because if you have actionable action steps that you know how to go about taking, because they're such small bite-sized action steps, it'll be way easier to not procrastinate. And I think a lot of us can very easily procrastinate when something feels overwhelming. That's at least what I felt like doing when it came to the book. And I just realized, okay, if I just 5 days a week write one sentence, at least I build that momentum. And what often happens when I write one sentence, then I finish the paragraph, and sometimes I finish the chapter. So break it down into small bite-sized pieces and take aligned action. That's step 3, aligned action. That also means being bold. If you're someone who wants to create friendships like on a deeper level, like I did, it means sometimes walking up to a stranger and just starting a conversation, which is outside of a lot of us people comfort zone. Or reaching out if you're someone who wants to create a podcast. It means hitting that record button on your mic or on your phone, and it's just about recording that first episode. Or if you want to have guests on, starting to reach out to different people who potentially could be guests on your show. Take aligned action. Now, the 4th step kind of has to do with this visualization that I spoke about previously. It has to do with stepping into your new self-identity to stay in this frequency. I am actually having someone incredible on the show coming on soon, the author of The Alter Ego Effect, which that book I read years and years ago, and it helped me so much. And he's coming on the show. And it's kind of this idea of literally stepping into this future version of yourself who has this thing that you want. I've often realized and experienced myself feeling super insecure, where I realized that if I actually was the person who I'm dreaming to be in the future, she would show up very confident right now. And then I would have to catch myself being insecure in that moment or feeling less than whoever I was around, taking a deep breath and stepping into my worthiness of, yes, I do belong here. Yes, I am good enough. All of these limiting beliefs and thoughts and things that I would tell myself that weren't true, and step into this frequency, in this instance, for these 3 months, peace, that this future version of myself that I feel right now, that 3 months ago that I wanted to feel. And once again, I want to say my life is not perfect. I have challenges like every single one of us. I have days that I'm off, and it's not all sunshine and roses, but continuous progress is something I felt and feel. And I feel so happy and proud of it. So work on becoming the version of yourself that belongs in this life that you want to live. And that can only really happen if you tune in with yourself, and potentially, I've talked about challenging yourself physically and how that makes you feel badass, like doing an interval training that's tough AF, a sprint, whatever, something that pushes you so extremely much physically so that you feel that inner strength. That's also a way to step into it. But yeah, stay in the frequency. And now finally, the 5th step, trust and detach. I think that we humans, at least I do, think that I know the way to get there. I know the way to get from A to B. But the truth is that the universe, God, energy, whatever you believe in, always has a much greater plan to get from point A to point B than I will ever have. It's been shown again and again and again. And I'm sure when you look back in your past, you can think of so many ways. I've talked about this so much on my podcast, but we can all use a little reminder of how when we look back, the things that we thought we wanted, the way that we wanted for life to turn out, did not always turn out that way. And today, looking back, oftentimes we can see why that is. Some things we can't fully see yet, or maybe we'll never see, but a lot of things we can realize that, if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't have been as resilient as I am today. I wouldn't have gained this lesson. I wouldn't have gotten to live the life that I live today if that traumatic thing in my past didn't happen, or if it had worked out in the way that I thought I wanted. So once you get clear on what you want, you write it down every day, you visualize, you potentially even ask for it, you take aligned action, and you stay in the frequency, the best thing that you can do is let go and trust that it's coming for you. Whatever is for the highest good for you is coming for you. And I will say that oftentimes the world can seem to be crumbling down right as we set new goals, because in order for there to be space for something new, the old has to be let go of. And in the midst of that crises, when things seems to be falling apart, we cannot always see why. But that is very often how things work out. As I mentioned, I'd gone through a bit of a crisis myself before all of these beautiful new things in my life came to existence. And I now, and in the moment, I also knew why it all had to happen. And you're not in control of the timing, but you got to trust that it will come to you at the right timing. And I don't know why, but I have this feeling that someone listening needs to hear that this also comes to if you're trying to create a family right now, you're trying to get pregnant. I have many people in my life who right now are working on becoming mothers. And I believe that your perfect child, baby, is going to come to you at the perfect time. And you may not be able to see that now, but trust that it will. And when it does, when she does, when he does, you'll know that it was not, that he or she was not supposed to come any earlier than right at that moment when she or he came to you. I really felt called to say that, even though it probably only relates to a very, very little percentage of the viewers here, but I'm sure every single person can relate to really wanting something in your life right now. Maybe you want love. Maybe you want a job, a community, some goal of yours to become true. Trust that if you put in these steps, it will come. And it may even, when you surrender and trust that it will come be far greater than you could ever even have imagined at this point. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to do my journals and walk through this path with me every single day during journaling and meditation and visualization, I have all my journals inside of my challenges, inside of my community. I'll put a link below for you to check out. You also obviously get all of my viral high protein, low calorie recipes and weekly coaching with me, daily motivation chats inside of our group, workouts, and everything in between. I'm so grateful for you being here and listening, and I hope you know after listening to this, in case you didn't before, that you really can create the future that you want, and a lot can happen in just 3 months when you practice these steps that I shared with you today. Thank you so much for listening. If you don't follow my podcast, I would love for you to hit that follow button. And if you think it could be useful for a friend, share it with them. As always, remember that in order for you to grow, you have to challenge your norm. Bye.